Malaysia retiree shows his luxury apartment in Beijing. Imagine working your entire life, 35, 40 years of blood, sweat, and sacrifice, only to retire and realize that the money you saved simply isn't enough. Now imagine a 67-year-old Malaysian man, sitting in his spacious apartment in Beijing, watching the city skyline light up at night, paying less in rent than most people pay for a basic room back in Kuala Lumpur. That man is real. His name is Ahmad Razif. And what he's discovered about retirement, money, and the freedom that comes with making one unexpected decision is something I believe every Malaysian, every Southeast Asian watching this right now, needs to hear. But wait, before we go any further, please subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on stories like this one. Hit that subscribe button right now, drop "I subscribe" in the comments below, and I will personally welcome you to our community. We are building something special here, and I want you to be part of it. With that said, let's get into it. Here is a number that should make every working adult stop and pay attention. Over 50% of Malaysian retirees exhaust their EPF savings within 5 years of retiring. Not 10 years. Not 7. According to a report by the Employees Provident Fund itself, the median EPF savings for members reaching retirement age is less than RM240,000. Financial planners widely agree that a comfortable retirement in Malaysia, with medical costs, rising groceries, utility bills, and basic lifestyle expenses, requires at least RM1 million. That gap is not small. That gap is the difference between a retirement you dreamed of and one you're simply surviving through. And this is not a distant, abstract problem. This is happening right now, to real people in neighborhoods you know. Ahmad Razif spent 38 years as a civil engineer. He worked on infrastructure projects across peninsular Malaysia, contributed faithfully to his EPF every single month, and retired at 62 with what he considered a solid nest egg, RM480,000. He owned a modest condominium in Petaling Jaya, drove a paid-off Proton, and figured he had enough to live comfortably for the rest of his life. Then reality arrived. Within the first 2 years of retirement, Ahmad watched RM120,000 disappear. Not from luxury spending. Not from bad investments. Just from the ordinary, grinding cost of being alive in Malaysia in 2020. His condo maintenance fees crept up. Medical checkups, medication for his blood pressure and cholesterol, specialist consultations, all charged at private hospital rates, ate through his savings faster than he ever expected. Groceries cost more every time he visited the supermarket. His electricity bill somehow kept climbing even though he was home alone. By 2021, Ahmad was doing the math every night before bed, and the math was terrifying. That's when his daughter called. She had been working in Shanghai for 3 years and was visiting a colleague in Beijing. She invited her father to come and stay for a month. "Just come, Aya," she said. "You need a break from worrying." Ahmad almost said no. Thank goodness he didn't. When Ahmad stepped into the apartment his daughter had arranged for him to tour in a residential compound in Chaoyang District, Beijing, he went quiet for a long moment. Floor-to-ceiling windows stretched across the entire living room. The late afternoon sun cut through the glass and landed across pale hardwood floors. The apartment was 1,200 square feet, larger than the condo he owned back in PJ. It came fully furnished with modern fixtures, an induction stove, a full-sized refrigerator, a washing machine, and built-in wardrobes in every bedroom. The compound had a security gate, CCTV throughout, a swimming pool, a small gym, and a landscaped courtyard where elderly residents practice Tai Chi in the morning. The monthly rent? The equivalent of approximately RM2,100. Ahmad stood there in that apartment and said, out loud to nobody in particular, "This cannot be real." But it was real. And when he started comparing it to what RM2,100 gets you in Kuala Lumpur, a shared room in Chow Kit, maybe a basic studio somewhere in the outskirts, the contrast was almost surreal. A comparable apartment in Mont Kiara or Bangsar would cost between RM4,500 and RM6,000 per month, minimum. In some newer developments, even more. For that same money in Beijing's Chaoyang district, one of the city's most developed, most accessible, most internationally connected areas, Ahmad was looking at a luxury residential experience that most Malaysians could only afford in their dreams. He spent the next 2 weeks not sightseeing. He spent it doing research, talking to locals, visiting wet markets, eating at neighborhood restaurants, riding the metro, sitting in parks, watching how people lived, and what he found shocked him even more than the apartment. Let's talk about the real numbers, because this is where it gets genuinely eye-opening. According to the Numbeo Cost of Living Index for 2024, consumer prices in Beijing, adjusted for expat lifestyle, run approximately 30 to 40% lower than equivalent spending in Kuala Lumpur. Now, that might sound impossible given that Beijing is the capital of the world's second-largest economy. But the key is in how and where you spend. At Beijing's wet markets and neighborhood supermarkets, a week's worth of fresh vegetables, eggs, tofu, fish, and fruit costs the equivalent of roughly RM40 to RM60. In KL's wet markets, that same haul today, with food inflation factored in, easily runs RM90 to RM120. A full hot meal at a local Beijing restaurant, rice, protein, soup, and a drink, runs between RM8 and RM12 in Malaysian ringgit. Not a street stall. An actual sit-down restaurant with air conditioning and table service. Utilities for a 1,200 square foot apartment, including electricity, gas, water, and building internet, comes out to roughly RM150 to RM200 per month, even with the underfloor heating running in winter. Ahmad sat down one afternoon and drew up his full monthly budget. Rent, RM2, 100. Groceries and daily meals, RM600. Transport, using Beijing's extraordinarily efficient metro system, RM80. Entertainment, occasional dining out, personal expenses, RM400. Medical insurance supplement, RM300. Total monthly spend, approximately RM480. In Malaysia, his equivalent lifestyle, including rent, was costing him between RM500 and RM600 every single month. He was saving nearly RM2000 a month just by being in Beijing. That is RM24,000 a year. That is the difference between watching your retirement savings evaporate and watching them hold steady, or even grow. But here's what made Ahmad's eyes light up the most when he told me this story. It wasn't just that things were cheaper. It was the quality of the life he was getting for that price. And that, I want you to understand, is a completely different conversation. Let me tell you what Ahmad's mornings look like now. He wakes up at 6:30 a.m. without an alarm. He makes himself a cup of Chinese green tea in his sunlit kitchen and stands at his floor-to-ceiling window watching the city slowly come alive below. By 7:15, he's in the courtyard downstairs joining a group of local elderly residents for a gentle session of Tai Chi. He doesn't speak perfect Mandarin, we'll get to that, but in the language of slow breathing and shared movement at dawn, he fits right in. By 8:30, he walks to the wet market 3 minutes from his compound gate. He knows the vegetable auntie by face now. She saves him the freshest bok choy. He buys his fish from the same stall every time. He practices his basic Mandarin phrases. She corrects him and they both laugh. On weekdays he reads, watches Malaysian news online, does light exercise, cooks his own lunch, something he genuinely enjoys and rarely had time for during his working years. 2 or 3 times a week, he takes the metro to explore a different part of Beijing. The Forbidden City. The Hutong alleyways of Dongqing. The Summer Palace. He has been in Beijing for over a year and a half now, and he says he has still not seen everything. On weekend evenings, he meets up with a growing circle of Malaysian and Singaporean retirees who have made similar choices. They gather at a local restaurant, share plates of Cantonese and Sichuan food, and speak freely in Bahasa, English, and broken Mandarin all at once. For the first time in years, Ahmad told his daughter during one of their video calls, "I wake up without dread." That sentence broke something open in me when I heard it. Because I think a lot of people, more than we admit, know exactly what that dread feels like. A 2022 HSBC expat report, surveying over 18,000 expats across 35 countries, found that 71% of expat retirees living in Asia reported a higher sense of life satisfaction compared to their lives in their home countries. The top 3 reasons cited? Lower cost of living, reduced daily stress, and a stronger sense of adventure and purpose. Ahmad is not an outlier. He is part of a growing, quietly expanding wave. Before you start packing your bags, I need to be completely honest with you. Because if I only showed you the beautiful side of this story and left out the hard parts, I would be doing you a disservice. And there are hard parts. Some of them are very serious. Let's talk about what Ahmad didn't expect, and what nearly made him turn back. The first and most immediately humbling challenge is language. Beijing is not Bangkok or Bali, where English is widely spoken in tourist and expat circles. Mandarin is not optional in Beijing. It is the language of daily life, of medical appointments, of government offices, of apartment lease negotiations, of everything that matters. When Ahmad first arrived, he couldn't read a menu, couldn't understand a pharmacist, couldn't tell a taxi driver where he lived without showing his phone screen. That kind of helplessness, at 67, in a foreign city, he described it as one of the most disorienting experiences of his life. There is also the visa question, and this one requires very careful attention. Malaysia does not have a bilateral retiree visa agreement with China. Unlike countries like Thailand, which offers a formal non-immigrant OA retirement visa, China's visa pathway for long-term retirees is more complex. Standard tourist visas are issued for 30 or 60 days. Overstaying, even accidentally, can result in fines and bans. Ahmad's first 3 months in Beijing were spent on rolling tourist visas while he figured out the right pathway. He eventually worked with a licensed immigration agent based in Beijing to apply for a private long-stay visa, legal, renewable, and now stable. But it took time, patience, and money to navigate. Then there is the question of isolation, not just the social kind, but the deeper, psychological weight of being far from everything familiar. The Journal of Cross-Cultural Gerontology published a 2021 study finding that social isolation in foreign retirement environments can increase the risk of cognitive decline by up to 40% within 3 years. That is not a number to dismiss. When you are far from your siblings, your old friends, your language, your culture, when every small difficulty requires 3 times the energy to solve, the mental load accumulates. And one more thing that Ahmad is candid about, Beijing's air. The city's air quality has improved dramatically over the past decade thanks to aggressive government environmental policies. But Beijing winters still produce PM 2.5 readings, the measure of fine particulate matter in the air, that regularly sit between 35 and 55 micrograms per cubic meter. The World Health Organization's safe guideline is 15. For anyone with asthma, chronic lung conditions, or cardiovascular concerns, this is a serious consideration that cannot be brushed aside. So yes, the apartment is beautiful. The lifestyle is real. The savings are genuine. But the full picture has shadows too. And you deserve to see both. Now, here is what separates people who try something like this and thrive from people who try it and retreat within 6 months. It's not money. It's not language skill. It's not even age or health. It's whether they made a plan or whether they just leapt. Ahmad made a plan. And his approach is practical enough that I want to walk you through it step by step, because whether you're considering Beijing, Chiang Mai, Lisbon, or anywhere else, the framework is the same. 6 months before he made the decision to stay in Beijing, Ahmad enrolled in a beginner Mandarin course online. He practiced 30 minutes every day. He will tell you himself that his Mandarin is still rough, that he mispronounces tones constantly, that he sometimes accidentally says something embarrassing when he meant to ask for vegetables. But the effort, the visible, genuine effort, transformed how local people treated him. They stopped being impatient. They started helping. The market auntie started saving him the good bok choy. On the technology side, he set up both WeChat Pay and Alipay before leaving Malaysia. Both are available to foreigners with a foreign bank card. In China today, cash is almost obsolete. If you can't pay through a mobile app, you cannot eat, cannot shop, cannot do almost anything. This is not optional preparation. This is survival. For the visa issue, he connected with a reputable immigration consultant through the Malaysian expat community in Beijing, a network he found through a WeChat group that now has over 400 members, all Malaysians living in China. The group shares visa updates, medical recommendations, apartment listings, legal advice, and, perhaps most importantly, a sense of belonging. Every 2 weeks, a Malaysian community dinner brings 20 to 30 people together in person. For healthcare, Ahmad operates on a 2-tier system. For minor issues, coughs, blood pressure monitoring, prescriptions, he uses a local Chinese community clinic near his apartment, where costs are extremely low and the standard of care for routine matters is perfectly adequate. For anything more significant, he is registered at an international hospital in Beijing that employs English-speaking staff and accepts international insurance. He pays for a supplemental health insurance policy, RM300 a month, that covers him for major medical events. Is it a perfect system? But it is a thoughtful, responsible one. And it is working. Here is the part of this story that I find most fascinating and most underreported. Ahmad is not alone in this. Not even close. According to the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, cross-border retirement migration in Asia increased by 18% between 2019 and 2023. That trend accelerated sharply after the pandemic, as retirees across the region reassessed their financial situations and their quality of life simultaneously. The top destinations for Southeast Asian retirees relocating abroad include Thailand, Vietnam, and, increasingly, quietly, without much media coverage, China. And specifically Beijing, Shanghai, Chengdu, and Qingdao, which offer dramatically lower costs of living than their international reputations might suggest. Here is the fact that might genuinely surprise you. The Chinese government has invested over $73 billion into senior care infrastructure between 2020 and 2024. That figure comes directly from Xinhua, China's state news agency, which reported on the government's 14th five-year plan for aging society development. New elder care facilities, community health centers, senior accessible public transport, digital literacy programs for older adults. China is building a country that, at least on the infrastructure level, takes its aging population seriously. Beijing's metro system is fully wheelchair accessible. Major wet markets have senior priority service lanes. Pharmacies are on nearly every block, staffed and well-stocked. The high-speed rail network, which Ahmad now uses regularly to visit the ancient city of Xi'an, the water towns of Suzhou, and the tea hills of Hangzhou, is the largest and most advanced in the world, making travel within China easier, faster, and cheaper than almost anywhere else on Earth. Ahmad said something to me that I keep thinking about. He said, "I feel more looked after here than I did in my own country." He said it without bitterness toward Malaysia. He loves Malaysia. He misses rendang on Eid. He misses his siblings. He calls his old friends every Sunday. But he said it as a simple, factual observation about the daily reality of his life. The infrastructure, the access, the ease of moving through a city that was built with people like him in mind. I want to be fair to the full truth here, because this video is not an advertisement for relocating to Beijing. It is a window into one man's real experience, and that experience is not universal. Patricia Lim is 64. She is a retired schoolteacher from Penang who tried Beijing for 6 months in 2022, inspired by stories similar to Ahmad's. She found a reasonable apartment. She managed the basics of daily life. But the winter nearly broke her. Not just the cold, which she had expected, but the gray sky that sat over the city for weeks at a time, the wind that cut through her coat at the bus stop, the sense of being sealed inside a foreign world with no one she had known for more than a few months. "I missed the sea," she told me. "I missed being able to drive to Gurney and eat laksa and feel like myself. Beijing is a magnificent city. But it was not my city." Patricia came home. And she is completely at peace with that decision. This is the nuance that viral videos often skip past, and I refuse to skip it. Relocating in retirement is a deeply personal decision that depends on your health, your family situation, your personality type, your language aptitude, your tolerance for cold weather, your need for familiar cultural anchors. What the Ahmad Razif story tells us is not, everyone should move to Beijing. What it tells us is that the options we think we have are not the only options that exist. That the financial walls we feel closing in on us in our home country may not be the walls of the entire world. At a retired Malaysian civil engineer, at 67 with no Mandarin, with no prior experience living abroad, can build a genuinely beautiful life in one of the great capital cities of the world, for less than he was spending in Petaling Jaya. If you are seriously considering something like this, here is the most practical advice I can give you, based on Ahmad's experience and the experiences of others in that 400-person WeChat community. First, visit before you commit. Go for a minimum of 3 months. Not 2 weeks as a tourist. 3 months as a temporary resident, cooking your own food, navigating your own transportation, living the actual daily life, not the holiday version of it. Second, budget for RM3,000 to RM4,000 per month in Beijing to live comfortably. This covers rent in a decent area, food, transport, healthcare supplement, and a quality of life that frankly exceeds what the same money buys in KL today. Third, start your Mandarin now. Even if you are years away from any decision, 30 minutes a day on an app is enough to give you a foundation. The investment compounds faster than you think. Fourth, connect with the community before you arrive. The Malaysian expat networks in Beijing, Shanghai, and Chengdu are real, active, and genuinely welcoming. They will answer questions that no article or YouTube video can answer, because they are living the answers every single day. And fifth, take your health seriously in advance. Get a thorough checkup. Speak honestly with your doctor about the climate considerations. Arrange your insurance. Do not leave health planning as an afterthought. Ahmad Razif stood at his floor-to-ceiling window in Beijing last winter, watching snow fall softly over the Chaoyang skyline. He wrapped his hands around a warm cup of pure tea, a tea he had never tasted before in his life until a year and a half ago, and he called his daughter in Shanghai. "Are you happy, Aya?" she asked him. He was quiet for a moment. "I am more than happy," he said. "I am free." 38 years of working. 40 years of planning. And it turned out that freedom, real, daily, unburdened freedom, was waiting for him in a place he had never thought to look. Now I want to hear from you. Ahmad traded a financially anxious retirement in Malaysia for a life of genuine comfort and daily joy in Beijing, at lower cost. Patricia tried the same and chose home, and she doesn't regret it either. Both choices were right for the people who made them. So here is the question I want you to sit with and answer in the comments below, because I genuinely want to read what you think. If your retirement savings weren't going to be enough to live the way you deserve back home, would you be willing to start over somewhere completely new? Or is home, with all its costs and complications, something you could never trade away? There is no wrong answer. But I have a feeling the conversation in the comments is going to be one of the most honest ones we've ever had on this channel. If this video opened your eyes to something you hadn't considered before, please share it with someone you love who is thinking about retirement. You might be giving them a gift they didn't know they needed. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a story like this one. And drop "I'm staying" or "I'm going" in the comments right now. Let's see where this community stands. I'll see you in the next one.